Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Spills and Pineapples. I'm your host Rafi. Today my guest is Emma Dunand from the east of France. Hi,
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Thank you for coming to Coffee Spills and Pineapples. We already had started our conversation before the cameras turned on, and we were talking about accents. We were talking about French accents. So you are from France, but you've lived in different parts of the world. You've traveled a lot. You've discovered, and you've had many different experiences from studying and developing into like different kinds of career paths. And I'd love to hear your journey and all the coffee spills. And also the pineapples. Yes.
There are lots of coffee spills, I guess, in life when you like go from a place to another, just like growing somewhere and then moving out. You have coffee spills, of course. That's part of the game.
Yeah.
I grew up in a valley in the mountains, in Chamonix, close to Chamonix, like a bit above. So in the mountains, skiing, snowing during winter, summer, it's great as well. You can hike, there's lakes, there's nature everywhere, it's great. My family is originally from there, so my family name is actually Dunand,
Dunand.
N, and it actually means from the river in Savoyard patois, the local language from this region. So I grew up in this place, which is really interesting because it's at the border with Switzerland and Italy, and there is this massive amount of people coming and going for the mountain. So there is this attraction of the natural elements that bring people from all over the world that stay or that go. And I think for me it was like such an inspiring thing to be in contact from such a young age with like people from different nationality, with different careers and dreams, and just being able to have like this vision of the world of not being stuck in the mountains that I was in. So I think it's one of the reasons that made me want to move so much. As soon as I could, when I was 17, I left this place.
17, that's a very young age to move away from home.
Yeah. It's a good age as well, I think. I started my studies when I was 17.
Yeah, it's a courageous thing to do, and I've been meaning to tell my children this all the time, that it takes a lot of courage to actually leave everything that you know and move into a new place. Sometimes where you don't know the culture or the language, okay, it could be from going from one city to another in your home country, but a lot of the times you're traveling abroad, you're discovering new people and their customs and the way they do things, which is very different than what you do. And I keep telling them it takes courage. You learn so much.
Yeah, I think it does. I think for me the main point is learning to let go, but like in a nice way, not in like a bad way.
Yeah,
like
not forgetting.
Go.
Yeah.
No, but letting go, like being able to let yourself grow in another place and not being stuck by stuff that you like or like comfort. For me, I'm like when I'm too comfortable somewhere, like too comfortable, if I can say that. This is when I'm like, I need to go, because now I know that this is a nice place and I like it, and I have people that I love and places that I like to go to and stuff that I like to do here. But this is my time to like go somewhere else. So it's always this massive paradox between like being super sad to leave a place that I'm leaving and I don't really know why, because I'm like, okay, I feel good here. But also the attraction of discovering a new place and getting that feeling in somewhere else.
That I might feel good there.
Yeah. So I think it's also like really interesting, like personally for me, to like put myself in a different environment and see if I can create those opportunities and those connections that I can make in other places. So
when you moved away from home at 17, you went to study. What was the direction you were heading into? I
think at that time of my life, I was just being strategic because I wanted to get out of the Alps.
At 17, being strategic is like...
Yeah. But I think I didn't have a choice-ish before that. I was doing competition skiing, so I had like this really tight schedule, and I had school next to it, so I had to...
Well, you were in the Alps. You had to be doing competition skiing.
Had to,
this
course.
is it. Yeah.
So that was like a really strict schedule as well, like skiing 5 times a week, doing competitions during the weekend, so being like moving around France and Europe to do those competitions, and at the same time being in school and getting good grades in order to being able to leave the regions and leave the Alps and go somewhere else in France to go to the universities that we don't have in the Alps. So that's what I did, and I wanted to have opportunities to then be able to move around. So that's why I went into a law bachelor in Paris.
Law, yeah.
Law, yeah. But it was not really for me, I think. I did a bit in Paris.
So is that a coffee spill? Do you feel like it's not? It's like
I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know. I think the coffee spills maybe Paris.
Oh, Paris!
For me,
wow,
yeah,
okay.
I've lived there twice, and every time it was like super oppressing. As a city, I feel like it's super alienating. People are just really, I don't know. They operate depending on the city and like the places that they go to. When they take the transports, they like have to be in a certain way in order to like function in this organization that is not theirs.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like really unnatural, and I never quite felt at ease in Paris. But so I might have been a coffee spills in a way, but I think learning law was really interesting because it allowed me then to choose to go towards international immigration law, and it allowed me to go to Amsterdam to study this.
So you did international migration studies?
Yeah, migration law.
So this doesn't have anything to do with creativity, because on this podcast we talk about we talk to creatives and creatives of any kind, and so far we're not talking about creativity yet. I know it's coming. So how do you go from law and make yourself into arts?
Yeah, I think now we're talking about studies, but apart from that, my whole life I've always done music. My family, everybody plays music. I've always, when I talked about nature earlier, for me it's like one of the main part of like creativity. And even now when I was speaking about Paris and the way that it's organized, I felt like for me it was something that closed my creativity, and just the way that I've always perceive the world and like walk around in the world. I think it was always part of like a creativity process. And doing law, I wanted to do international migration law because I was really interested about the creation of culture and the mix of art practices and stuff and places of migration, like either on the road or like at the arrival point. How does it organize in like a maybe ethnology kind of way?
Yeah.
How does it link with like culture and arts, and what spaces emerge from that? And for me, it was really important to have like the keys, let's say, to be able to enter in those fields, to have a certain kind of knowledge that could be helpful, but also get in link with the art part.
Wow. Okay. So you've tried to, you made the coffee spills into like very juicy pineapples.
Yeah.
So I would say you went to Paris. Though a lot of people go to Paris for inspiration, it seems you didn't find your inspiration there.
No,
okay.
I don't think so. I think it inspired me to like go back to something that I felt comfortable in and my body felt good in, and that allowed me to have the space of mind to like be creative and get into, I don't know, new discoveries that I might find, I don't know, readings and stuff. I loved Paris for like the museums, for example. This is amazing.
Of course, there's
so many great
information, knowledge, culture, even happening like on a daily basis that you can benefit from.
Yes, I've always loved that in Paris. This is one of the amazing things. But to all the places that I moved in, I've always found, some community of like musicians or creators or, creative people in general. If it's like just thinking or like creating residencies or whatever, you can find them everywhere. I think like even if a city is massive, you will have more offer, but you're only one person, you cannot do everything. Yes,
so exactly. That's a good way of looking at it, because though any city offers you, we have this conversation often with at the family about big cities and smaller communities. And though the city is big and the offerings are a lot, you can only do so much in the one day, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're in a small community, you will probably do the same amount of things as you're doing in a big city. And sometimes even you can do more because you spend less time on transport and travel to get to a place, which gives you more time to either enjoy your free time, the space that you are in, and enjoy people.
I think it's really interesting that you use the word community in opposite of like big city.
Yeah.
because of course I think like finding a community, depending wherever you are, this is like a really important part of my creative journey. I think it just allows the self-perception to be put outside in like people that you trust in, and then you can create stuff together, and it reflects who you are in the way that you think as well, in a really nice way. So I think this community is really important and can be found in different places, but it does not necessarily have to be in a place with lots of people, which can actually be harder sometimes because of the links, and as you said, like the transportation and stuff like that, it takes so much time and energy that it can break the search for like connection and community.
So we were talking about communities and how finding the right people helps you also be creative, right? Because that also gives you the inspiration, that gives you the support. A lot of the times artists feel like they are alone in a big space when they're creating, and self-doubt happens, right? You start asking yourself if what you're doing makes sense. And when you have a community, you can bounce ideas off of each other. And this is very helpful for the creative process.
I think most of my friends either are artists or like linked to the artist sector in general. So I think even the people that I lived with in my life in different sectors, I don't know, at some point in Lyon, I lived in this art residency for like a few months. When I was living in Marseille, in my flat, it was like the creative space, so everybody could come and go, like from the flat, and other people as well. We had like a spare room that we used as a studio. So it's like those creative places, and how you like make people come together and like have this space that is like shared and can be open to anyone that can.
So conversations, but you mentioned Marseille. You said Netherlands earlier? No.
I did live in Amsterdam at some point.
Tell us a little bit about these places. So Amsterdam, Marseille, anywhere else that you're going to surprise us with?
Places that I found really inspiring, I think, for the creative process that I and the people that I met as well. Like in Amsterdam, the scene is amazing. I was really engaged in feminist collectives and stuff, so we created, I don't know, banners and other stuff for different occasions, and like the concerts as well in like the squats. We're really in link with the people from the art schools, which my friends were there. So I was like linked to like the music sector in the squats as well as with the schools. So in Amsterdam, I think there is this massive energy of people wanting to share and create those stuff and welcoming you with open arms in different spots of the city, which is great. And it's still the case now, because I lived there like 4 years ago, but last year I went a lot, and it was still the case.
I like that you spoke about energy, and I think that's sort of what draws us to things, right? To places or to people. A lot of the times I've noticed that the energy also shifts in one person's life. Like during my lifetime, I've lived in Montreal for some 20-some years, and again in Armenia for some 20 years. Before that, I was in the Middle East. I was much younger to understand that energy. But from Montreal, I felt like New York would be a calling, but so was like Gaspésie, which is in Quebec. It's like a very far part of like near the ocean, and that's another kind of pull and a different energy. And sometimes where you are in life and the energy that you need actually pulls you. Armenia pulled me in 24 years ago and said, this is where you have to be. I've been here for a long time, and I feel the energy here now feels a lot like the energy that I felt in Berlin after the collapse of the wall. It was just a lot of opportunities. Everything was possible. Different people from around the world were coming into this space and creating that vibe where it felt like everything is possible. I don't know, how are you feeling now in Armenia?
Yeah, I think I've felt it as well, like in the art sector, because at the moment, so I'm volunteering / working with the NEPAC, which is art institution for contemporary art in Yerevan.
It's more like the experimental kind of space.
Yeah,
you can do whatever.
It's quite open. It's actually a place that is really interesting because the institution do not have like a curator. It's all the people that come and exhibit that have their own curator, so they are quite free to like do everything that they want with the space, and we just help them to like organize which I think is really nice and important as well, to give them the free space and creative process. And since I've been working at NEPAC, I've already had and felt different opportunities that came to me regarding like the art sector, which I'm comparing to like Europe at the moment. This would never happen, because those opportunities just came by the fact that I think I've been open and curious and talking to people and just being like really present in what I do and loving what I do. And the opportunities came by themselves. I didn't have to fight to like be, I don't know, in a really structured process of anything. I think it was just like, it came because of honesty, curiosity, and openness, which I'm really glad, and I think it makes them even more beautiful and also more pure in a way.
Yeah.
And it makes me at least want to get in this and see where it goes.
You said law, migration, arts, curating. You also talked about spaces, people, community. So what is the underlying key drive for you as a human, as a woman? You talked a little bit. You just mentioned the word feminism, but what does all that represent in a nutshell?
So my grandmother, that was like such a fan of arts and everything. She was actually like a feminist from May 1969 in France. She was like this French teacher. Then she became a journalist, really inspiring woman.
Oh, wow.
She's still alive. She does so many great stuff. She's amazing. So she used to bring me to some places to, I don't know, see museum, the concert, the opera. She brought me to Greece to visit Greece when I was like 8 years old. And for me, it was just like such strong stuff to have the opportunity to have someone to bring me there. But I could also tell that in the place that I grew up in, there was still like culture and art, because my family were making music, but in like this rural area. And when I grew up, I was really eager to get the institutionalized culture that we are broadcasted, I don't know, in school, in TV and stuff. And later on, I realized that I was actually in between with like my traditions that I had, that was still art, the way that you see nature, gardening, I don't know, the water that you have when you're growing up, like when the seasons are changing, those kind of stuff for me. It's also like creativity process, or like creating something in yourself that changes something. So I think being in link with those elements, I've realized that it was like all of those cultural parts that were not like exhibited in museums or like in institutions, and then getting in contact with different people in different cities and stuff like that, I realized as well that those cultures were sometimes shut down or not exposed as much, or people were not allowed to have the space to express it, because we were told sometimes that art should be in certain places. Yeah. Music should be in the opera, or like in a concert hall. That's not true. Right. And we see it with like folklore in so many different places, which is amazing, and I'm really obsessed with it. After realizing all of this, I was like, oh, it's really interesting. So my main interest was to see the links between like social inclusion and how art can help with like the connection of people, and how it can be like a safe space by the creation, the reception. I did my master thesis. I did two master theses on basically how art can be a vector of integration for immigrant people in the European Union. So I did one case study in Prague. So I worked at the time in this NGO. So I was giving like art classes to young refugees between, I think, 7 and 12, which was great. It was so fun. Yeah. So it's really interesting. And I worked with different museums and institutions studying how they could and what they were doing so far regarding the integration of immigrants. It could be through, I don't know, exhibiting artists from immigrant culture or background, talking about teams that could be linked to immigration so that the society in Czech Republic could receive those knowledge. So I did, the first one in Prague, and then I did another one in Paris that specialized on the case of women, because I was working with this NGO, and we used art as a part of the process of learning the French language. So art was used as a medium for integration through language, but also through self-confidence or learning about the art. They were trained to be mediators on certain, paintings and stuff that were exhibited in the museums that we were working with. So there was this really interesting process of like those women working together, linked around art.
So these are migrant women?
They were immigrants outside of the European Union that arrived in France in the last 5 years. So it was just really interesting to be like in this link of them learning the language, but also learning through art. So they did not really realize that they were learning and like sharing experiences. It just created this space that was so flourishing and stuff. And it was really interesting as well to work with the museums to see how we could like include this social aspect in the institutions.
But when we ask, like, for the average person, are you a photographer? Are you a musician? Is there such a label that you would put and say, well, this is what the kind of creativity that I do?
I don't think there's a label. And I think it's something that I've struggled with. I've just been so passionate about different forms of like creativity, and that I'm kind of like moving from one place to another, but still keeping them in mind. I've played music for a really long time. I played the clarinet for like, I don't know how many years with my family and in different spaces, which I loved. I'm really interested in like so many different instruments. So I tried, a lot of them. When I travel, I try to learn a new one or something. And this is really interesting. So like music, definitely. But also, at some point I was obsessed with photography. So I did lots of that. And then I dance a lot as well. Like I'm dancing mainly contemporary. And since the last 5 years, I'm doing contact improvisation dancing, which is like a creation of movement between bodies. So it's like abstract. The concept is really abstract. It's like how to move, for me, like how to move as a cellular organism. When you're like with a group. Have you been practicing that here? Yeah, I actually found a space, which is one of the first things I did, I think, when I arrived. I arrived, I think, maybe on a Friday, on the Saturday, the next day. Wow. I found the class and I was like, awesome. So happy. So you are also a dancer, a photographer, a musician, right? No, I think for me, creativity is just part of my personality in a way. Every day I write as well. I write a lot in many different forms. Love that so much. I think for me it's just like a way to see the world and a way to express yourself that can take many forms and use different mediums, but in the end it's still the same thing. It's like expressing yourself and like putting it somewhere so that it stays there. Right. And maybe not, but it takes a form that is outside of you but comes from you as well. Yeah, it's like a personal journal kind of. Like it could be in the form of dance, music, writing, text. When you said express yourself and you used language in the NGO that you were working with in Paris, the women's group, right? You said how they express themselves in French. And I was thinking about language and what kind of language do you need to be able to work in Czech Republic with these migrants, right? These immigrant children. What kind of language are you using here in Armenia to find, to communicate with people that don't necessarily speak the same language as you? I think language is an interesting factor in connecting to people. And sometimes without that language, the connection doesn't happen. And a lot of the times, even without the language, the connection is strong. Yeah. So can you talk about language and how you're dealing with this? I've always had a struggle with language and words in the way that I don't understand the fact that we were giving something that was not ours, that was never created by us. We're giving something as like a norm or social standard. These words mean this, but it gets really subjective as soon as it is used by us. And as soon as we put words outside of our mouths, it's not the same one that comes from the brain. There's like this process of losing the original sense with words or something. I don't know. But sometimes I'm like, okay, dancing is more relevant and talks more. Actually, it's something that is more true and like fluid than speaking, because speaking, when you speak, you need to like a bit think about it, or you use constructs that were not created by you, but when it's the body expression comes from you. So like language, it's your creativity, right? The movement is yours. It's just like the movement that from you're inside. Using as you've been taught. Yes. So I think there is this really interesting thing when working with people that do not speak the same language of body language, or just like the energy of looking people in the eyes, being calm, and the attitude that you have. You can feel how someone is going to react as well to the way that you express yourself with words, without words. And I think patience as well really helps. And just being understanding that everybody speaks different language and has different way to express themselves and different wishes to do so as well.
Yeah. So I've learned about 5 languages, tried the 6th one, Russian. I'm not able to learn this language. I don't know why. I understand some. But the 5th language I learned was Italian. And it's quite similar to French, so that helped me understand and learn better. And traveling to Italy, speaking with Italians, has become sort of a passion. I want to go to Italy just to speak the language, because I find, although you said we've taught these languages, these words, there's a certain appeal in different languages that we know or speak. The romantic language, the aggressive language, the street language, the business language. But this Italian, for me, is this beautiful, poetic, it's like a song. Whenever someone's speaking Italian, I can just sit there and listen to it. Even if I don't really understand the whole conversation, it's just, I find it so intriguing, and it inspires me to want something more. I don't know what that something is. It could be learning the language. It could be just like having a glass of wine. I don't know what it is, but it's just so appealing and so nice. I don't know how to explain it more.
I do understand that. I do love languages in that sense.
Yeah.
For me, it was more the expressing part
sure.
trueness, but I love languages as well so much, and it's so interesting when you study just the way that the sentences are made. Sometimes with different languages, you can express a thought differently because they have like
100%.
a different way to phrase it.
100%.
I think one of the most used example that I find really interesting is about French and English with the I miss you in English. And in French is tu me manques, so the subject is not the same.
You're missing, like
you are a part of me that is
missing.
And I miss you is more like
about my feeling of
which
missing.
Is really interesting. Just like this means the same thing, but it actually doesn't. The way that you phrase it puts the perspective on like a different part of.
Sort of brought it up, and when you said I write, I wanted to know what's the first language you write in? Is it French, English, or some other?
It depends, because I do lots of different types of writing. I think at some point I was really obsessed with writing a lot, because I don't know why. I was like, if I die or something, or if I disappear, I want the people around me to have those stuff that I can have, and memories that was like in my mind that I never shared with them, like on this level. And I still do. It's been like 10 years that I write every day, so I have like so many journals everywhere. But I'm like, if someday someone finds it, they're gonna have so much knowledge of like me and who I was, and just like a sense of in my brain, and seeing the evolution as well, which I think is quite interesting. But I write in lots of different forms. At some point I was trying to write books for kids, because I thought it was really interesting, the folklore of like I don't know what's the name, tales,
fairy tales.
I think it's really, really interesting, and it shows so much about a culture. So I thought it was really interesting to like go deep into this. So I did this for a bit, and I write mostly like just for myself, like diary-ish, my memories and what I do every day, but also like poems. And usually my poems are like French and English, quite mixed.
Really?
So
That's
I do like
Franglish.
Yeah, depends. But I think it depends as well on days, and I don't know if in my dreams I dreamt in English, then I will wake up and write in English, or but it's mainly French and English, because I speak Spanish as well, but I cannot write as much as
fluently,
as I would want to.
What would you say have been the most challenging things? Because we talk about a lot of the good things, right? How we're inspired, where we find the inspiration, the community, and so on and so forth. What are the the hiccups and the big mountains that you have to climb to get to the other side, not just the Alps.
Yeah, all of the mountains. I would say, and I think might be the case for many people in those sectors, but for me it's like to find a way to combine my passions, because I do really want to do something that matters for me and do it in a way that is not restricting for me neither. So I think this is the art part, to find a way to like make everything into something that would be useful for society, but for me as well, and something that I care about. And I think it's really difficult to go in like the job search or like the market in some way and like put that, as you said, I'm not like an artist in like one sector, so I cannot like apply for a residency.
So multidisciplinary.
Yeah, I'm like, I would love to create those residency, working on this festival, also doing this, that dupe in that place and that place. So trying to find a way to like use the system in my advantage, let's say.
Right.
So this is, I think, something that is difficult for me to find, and just to get like a broad picture as well, because I'm moving, I don't necessarily know the scene and like the people when I go somewhere. So it takes some time, and it's also always a bit scary to be like, oh, but if I move again, maybe I'm gonna lose an opportunity. I will find some others, but still this thought is coming to my brain every time. And I think this is the difficult part about this entire journey, is like trying to find a way to stay in that lane of like creativity and like reaching towards that goal. I could just have been a lawyer if I wanted to.
Yes, of course.
But it was really not for me, and I was like, I cannot do this. I could have, I don't know, had lots of money and be an international lawyer somewhere, but that was not for me. And I'm really glad I didn't go that way, but still, like going the other direction is like creating those puzzle making, which I love. It's also fun. It creates like never a routine. Everything always changes, and it's just like creating something like a castle that you create like block by block. But yeah, I think it's putting it all together and seeing the connections sometimes when you're lacking them. And yeah, I think.
Yeah. That's one of the challenges, I think, that your generation or the younger generations is going to be facing in the coming, I want to say, decades, because of the ever-growing changes in the way humanity behaves and the way technology and just the mobility, right? So we're able to move from one place to another really quickly. It's not that expensive to do it. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not that expensive either. It's possible. There are lots of programs, and I think there will be more programs for this to happen. So the concept of migration is going to become really important for us to adhere to, accept, and understand what that means. What is an immigrant? What is a refugee? What do they bring to me and my society? It could also happen to me. This is the reality we all need to face, that people don't choose to be refugees or don't choose to leave a home that was theirs for, I don't know, a century or centuries and move into another place and start anew, right? Doctors, engineers, when they migrate, they have to leave a space. They have to start again. They have to start from scratch. And I think once we start understanding that plight and the challenges that exist in being in that kind of state of mind, that's when we start understanding humanity and the process and so on. So the challenges that you're facing of the opportunity elsewhere is also something that you are choosing. Yeah. As opposed to the different kind of migrants, right? This is an interesting.
I'm super lucky.
Yes.
And I always think that it's really unfair for, well, French people, I'm not going to say everyone, but that we can travel so easily to places and the people from those countries cannot come to France. I mean, this is insane for me. And they are treated as immigrants. When we travel, we're travelers, we're not immigrants.
Expats.
Yeah, we're expats. It's nice. We have houses.
Yeah. I think this is also a colonial kind of
it really is.
Mindset. It's really interesting to see how the mindset, the vocabulary is being used, and just that too, the definition of expat and immigrant is the same people in different kinds of countries, situations. So we're almost coming to the end of our conversation. I'd like you to give us an anecdote of story of something that you feel is your biggest pineapple or one of the biggest pineapples, something that you're proud of, something that makes you really happy, and you think about this and you say, this is something that I did and it was amazing.
This is a tough question.
It is a tough question. You usually think it's easy, but
it is not. It is not. Well, I'm actually gonna say that I think as a whole, I'm just really proud and really happy as the way that I've overcame difficulties and stuff to keep on believing in myself. And I think I'm really proud of being able to still be the same person and just put my body in different places and still be able to connect with people and be open to meeting new stuff and discovering new places and tradition and musics and landscapes and people once again. And I think I'm really proud of that, of having the ability to plant seeds when I go somewhere with like openness. And I think I'm really proud of that. I'm really glad that I'm still learning to do it. And I hope it's gonna stay like this.
Yeah, and, I like the planting seeds. I think this is very good analogy of how we as humans behave. And once we plant seeds, the trees and whatever we planted will grow. We may come back to it. Mm-hmm. We may just leave it for someone else to enjoy. And I think that's part of how we are all interconnected.
I think so as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
And I'm really happy that we were able to discover your journey and listen to your amazing stories, and really inspiring for someone, a woman, first of all, because it's not easy for a woman to travel and challenges everywhere exist, but more so for younger women that are more vulnerable, I would say, in certain situations. Having two daughters of my own, I know that the challenge that they face. So this is really interesting to see, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing all this with us. And I think it gave the inspiration to people to maybe move and do something.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Thanks for following, subscribing, sharing, commenting. Coffee Spills and Pineapples is a podcast where we talk to creatives to inspire you.